Fabulous. So my name is Priya Guha. I'm going to be moderating this session, which is entitled Tech Talk 2, The Living Bridge. Before I introduce myself and the wonderful panel we have, I did want to just mention a very exciting new addition to this afternoon session, which is that you might have seen on the way in a fantastic company called Air for Life, who have these wonderful air purifier and sanitizers. So they have very kindly offered to donate two through a raffle at the end of this session. So the two colleagues from Air for Life, if you wouldn't mind just waving your hands, gentlemen. If you haven't had the chance to give them your business cards on the way in, please feel free to do so, and we can do that raffle at the end of the session. So my name is Priya Guha. I'm the Ecosystem General Manager for RocketSpace. RocketSpace is a San Francisco headquartered company. We set up in the UK just over 2 years ago and opened the doors to our flagship late-stage technology campus there in central London, where we have about 1,000 people from technology businesses all over the world growing their businesses with our support. And really, I think that's a fantastic way to segue into the theme for today. As I said, the overarching theme is the living bridge, and we have a wonderful panel who are looking to talk to you about how to collaborate between the best tech in India, best tech in the UK. The session brings together established multinational tech providers with deep tech experts. The objective is to share learning, tech of the future, and look at how large multinationals incubate and learn from lean tech startups from the UK and India. So just to introduce the panel, let me start from those closest to me. So I'm very excited to have Mohan Reddy here with us. Mohan is the founder and executive chairman of Cyient Limited and the founding director of T-Hub. He founded Cyient in 1991 with the vision of providing engineering services to global markets. Cyient has now contributed over $2 billion in cumulative exports to Fortune 100 companies like Airbus, Boeing, Philips, creating direct employment for over 15,000 engineers in 38 global locations. Mohan Reddy served as chairman of NASSCOM, the non-profit Indian Tech Industry Association, familiar to many of you in the room, and has also been a member of their executive council since 2003. He's a founding director of T-Hub, which is the largest incubation center in India for startups by the government of Telangana. Next to him, we have John Cronin. John is the executive chairman of CyanoCanode. As exec chair, John has led the transformation of CyanoCanode to a world leader in narrowband radio frequency mesh communications networks that facilitate machine-to-machine communication for smart cities. CyanoCanode's innovative technology is delivered through local, in-country partnerships. In India, CyanoCanode is an established leader in the smart metering market, providing solutions through meter manufacturers and system integrators here. Next, we have Mr. Sudhir Narang. Sudhir is the managing director of BT India. Sudhir has had responsibility for BT Global Services India since December 2007 and also leads BT's global system integration vertical. He has held various leadership positions in companies connecting Indian and global markets, including at Cisco here in India. Next to him, we have somebody who you heard from already today. We have Ron Mobed, who's the CEO of Elsevier. Elsevier uses information analytics to progress science, advance healthcare, and improve performance. Ron was appointed CEO in 2012, having previously headed Elsevier's science and technology businesses. Prior to joining Elsevier, Ron has had a broad range of leadership experience in electronic information businesses, including at Cengage Learning's Academic and Professional Group, IHS, and Schlumberger. Next to him, we have VC. VC is the Chief Business Officer at Engineer AI. Engineer AI uses human-assisted AI in the belief that everyone should be able to build their ideas without needing to code, and that any idea should be able to be made into reality without wasting time, money, or resources. VC has had 2 decades of experience in operations and communications marketing, and before Engineer AI was GM at Edelman. And next to him, last but very much not least, we have Chris. Chris Baker-Bryan is the co-founder and CTO at Bbox. He co-founded Bbox back in 2010 to commercialize their next-generation utility platform and help cater for a growing demand for affordable energy products and services in developing countries. At Bbox, Chris is responsible for product development, supply chain, manufacturing and technology partnerships, and leads its engineering team in London. Welcome. So what we wanted to do is start this session by just giving each participant the opportunity to set out their perspectives on this theme. Then I'm going to be asking them a few questions myself, which will give you all time to think of questions to ask them for the last few minutes of the session. So if I may ask you, Mr. Mohan Reddy, to start.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you, Priya, for the generous introduction. I first like to congratulate the organizers of FutureTech, because I think today, if you look at technology, it is accelerating at a pace which is unheard about by mankind so far. We've seen first industrial revolution, the second and the third, and now people talk about the fourth. But even people do not have courage of talking about the next, because every day there's a change. In a changing environment like this, I think it is imperative that we bring tremendous amount of visibility to this technology, because it could reach immensely a number of people around the world. That's the first point. The second one is that I think the technology of today, which is extremely disruptive, will do social good. It'll bring in more amount of equality to mankind. So therefore, I think it's important that every one of us focus to say, how can this technology be used? My core competence is about 3 different areas I'll comment about as we move forward into the discussion. One is the corporate co-creation. The second one is how we can collaborate through innovation. And finally, the key thing in terms of doing all this is going to be skill requirement. So how do we cope with the future skill requirements? These are the 3 areas that I'll comment on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, John Cronin. So delighted to be here. And my theme here, Living Bridge, is really all about energy. And I just quote here, Sir David Attenborough, just at the UN in Poland a couple of weeks back, at the Climate Change Summit, where there's, 200 countries were present. I just read, quote, "Right now we are facing a man-made disaster on a global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years." So, he's really making a point. And therefore, my theme going forward about the energy sector is where we use technology to improve the efficiencies and effectiveness of how we use energy, right from the consumer level all the way through to stop more coal power stations being built, and really looking for green energy solutions, whether it's solar or it's wind. And obviously taking that technology, for instance, that Sion Cano do today, allows that to be for more efficiency usage, that each and every one of us will know how we use energy, when we use energy, how we can then do 24/7 usage of that energy, and actually look at the cost as well. So, we want to bring more people onto the energy networks, and the way of doing that is in India, where there's 1.7% of GDP lost every year through worth $32 billion of loss, where energy is generated but not collect the cash. So if we collected the cash in India, that would allow the 250 million people in India that are not on the grid to be put onto the grid at affordable rates. So energy for all, and we know that's part of Prime Minister Modi's objectives, energy for all at a sensible price. So that's my sort of theme really going forward, that we should think about how we can be better to save the planet at the end of the day through usage of technology.
Thank you, Priya. Sudhir Naran from BT. Let's go through the topic today, the living bridge. Actually, we have lived that experience. We came to this country for technology around 23 years back. We set up our Mahindra BT shop, and wherein we started hiring the skill sets. People have been talking about the skill sets from this country. From there now onwards, what we have seen, whether it's India as a service or India as a market, we have seen the evolution of skill sets which are emerging from India. We have seen the impact of especially the Indo-UK is much stronger, because if you see both the economies have almost of the same level, 3 trillion. It's actually the collaboration between equals. If you see, UK was bringing experience of industrial and hence large scale and processes, wherein India in the new information age was bringing IT skills and the knowledge how to re-engineer that process. So that's a complementary skill set, and that was really helping both the multinationals and including BT. Third thing, if you strongly see, both the markets were similar because the size of the economies was similar. So though Indian companies expanding in global, including UK, and a lot of UK companies are coming and investing here in this country because of these markets here. And this provides, because the market here is very heterogeneous. I really say, with all due regards to all, whether you call it low-cost innovation up model or Mercedes knockdown model, India can give the opportunity of heterogeneous and such a wide market to create propositions with the technology and skill set which is based in India, and create and keep building features according to the markets where you want to get in. But it's cost innovation, re-engineering of the product or development is emerging from skill sets here in this country. That'll be my theme.
The perspective that we would like to talk about actually is in line with what some of you will have heard this morning from Amitabh Kant of Niti Aayog. You heard about the tremendous ambitions that the Indian government has for economic and social good through the use of technology, especially those technologies around the use of data you could loosely put under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. We're very encouraged by that because we at Elsevier and RELX, our parent company, spend most of our time thinking about how we can improve the sectors of clinical medicine, academic and corporate research, the law, financial services, and agriculture by providing information systems that unlock the tremendous power and potential of the data that's being collected today by using the technologies of the future. And one of the aspects of this that I want to bring out later on is how an organization like ours, which has about 10,000 technologists, recognizes that it can't do everything alone and needs to partner, sometimes with our customers in university labs, for example, and sometimes with startups. Like very many large companies around the world, we have our own venture arm, a venture arm that has invested in the past in companies like Palantir, but we also bring in startups through acquisition. And I'd like later on to talk about our experience when companies like ours, which are quite large, combine with smaller companies and how to make that work.
Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Verghese Cherian. In short, VC. I think that's easier for the panel to remember my name. So I represent a company called Engineer AI. What we do is what Priya did highlight a bit about, but a few things that probably I want to add to that is we were one of the startups at an early stage where UK invested in, and today we are 5 years old. We just raised our Series A funding about a couple of months back, valuing about $30 million from SoftBank and a bunch of other VCs. In terms of what we do in simple words, if you were to look at the automobile industry and car manufacturing, what they've done in terms of automation to car manufacturing, we've done similar thing to the software industry. In terms of whatever is repetitive on building software, we automated it. Whatever is unique in terms of needs to be built, we use a capacity of about 45,000 engineers on our platform, which is like an Uber for outsourcing model to build software for our customers and operate on the cloud as well. In terms of the focus I want to take for today when I speak is going to be more in terms of this topic, which is very relevant for India, which is digital inclusion. Now, the way technology is changing for the good and changing for access to people in terms of services, in terms of their aspirations being met because they have access to services and products. And that's what technology is doing a big jump. So be it in what we are doing where we are able to help people build their dreams, or be it in terms of what the government is doing to ensure that everybody has access to services and everything that they need to live a good life, that's exactly where I'm going to stress upon today.
Thanks very much, and thank you to Priya for the introduction. So my name is Chris Baker-Bryan. I'm one of the co-founders of Bbox. In terms of the topic today, collaboration in technology, I think this is something that all of us could speak for many hours on. But in the minute that I've got, I just wanted to sort of touch on a couple of things that both Ron and John have already spoken about, which is the power of data to transform lives, when particularly in the energy space. This is something that Bbox is extremely interested in. We've got around 200,000 off-grid solar systems which we've deployed across Africa and Asia over the last 8 years. And I think just bringing it back to that more human level about how data can transform the lives of customers, one of the really powerful things that we've seen is, and what I'd like to talk more about today, is how for example, our remotely connected solar home systems can really understand how that customer behavior is changing over time. For example, we had a great study which was done over the summer whilst the World Cup was on. We saw increased energy demand across our households in Africa every time a team from the continent was playing. And that's the sort of the insights that we're gathering now we can start to use to understand how those customers' behavior might change in the future. So what I'm really excited about to talk about more today and in the future is how energy and data can come together to transform the lives of the people that John spoke about who are remaining living off the grid across India and the developing world.
Thank you. That was a fantastic scene setter, I think, for the discussion to come. So I wanted to kick off the conversation with really a discussion around bringing to life this concept of technology from the UK being relevant to India and Indian technology relevant to the UK. And I know, Mohan Reddy, you had a great example from your own experience of where an Indian technology has been really co-developed in the UK and India.
Okay, let me share with the audience a live example which is currently in progress as we speak. It's a co-creation of a technology solution for a British customer. You can name them. It's DEFRA, which is Department of Environmental Agriculture and I think Rural Agency. And under that lies RPA, which is Rural Payment Agency. The challenge is the Rural Payment Agency pays the subsidies to farmers based on the satellite imagery they get and based on the land utilization and thereafter the type of crops that are there. And one of the key challenges they found was there was very often a cloud cover, which means that the satellite imagery was not sufficient enough. Thereafter, you make approximations associated with it. So the problem identification was done by our colleagues back in UK. And they went and presented the problem was shared with the customer. And they more importantly went back to share a solution with them. They talked about the new disruptive technologies that have come in. So wherever there is the cloud cover, they said we can always fly drones in these areas, make sure we get the right amount of imagery using the right type of cameras, and thereafter you analyze the imagery at that point of time to understand what is the crop that's there or what's the usage of the land that's there. But more importantly, thereafter, the interpretation of this data was extremely manual. And whereas our colleagues back again talked about new technology at this point of time, which is more to do with machine learning or to do with artificial intelligence and interpretation of the imagery, all of that together and showed a proof of concept. But then here comes the challenge thereafter. If you want to probably do an extremely large product around a platform around this particular concept, it's not going to be inexpensive back in UK. So we used the technology experts back in India, collaborating with our UK counterparts in making sure the software architecture, the software development, and more importantly, we also found yet another very big advantage. To run this particular project, you require fairly large amount of computing power. A services company like us do have server farms, edge servers, blade servers, you name them, they're all there. And it probably in the initial stages would only take a fraction of the amount of time that's available on them. So customer does not require to make even that investment. So you therefore develop the software, take it back again, collaborate with our colleagues back in UK to make sure that this is acceptable to the customer. And finally, there is yet another issue that's there, is the QA/QC that has to be done, in the sense that manually you have to interpret the data and see if your machine learning algorithms are coming back to the same, the same decision or same conclusion. So all this could be possible only because of collaboration. If you look at the role that was played, the problem identification was done by our UK colleagues. The proof of concept was done back in UK. But thereafter, the software architecture, software design, coding, testing, quality acceptance, all was done in India. Ultimately, what the benefit that comes back to the customer is the amount of cost gets reduced by an order of a magnitude. I wouldn't name what it is, but that's the reflection it is. So therefore, collaboration to technology, and this is a good example to say it's going to be just not beneficial to a customer or to us as a company, but in general to everybody around the society who's a farmer at this point of time.
It's a fantastic example. Thank you, Mohan. So I wanted to ask John to share a bit about Sign Canode's experience, which is really sort of the technology flow going in a different direction in many ways, which is a UK technology being incredibly relevant for an Indian need. Please, John.
Indeed. So our experience here has been something like 7 or 8 years that we've been working in India. And when we started off, it was really speaking with the utilities to understand what are they looking for, how we can improve their effectiveness and efficiency using the technology in smart metering. So taking that learning back then to the UK to have the software engineers, the hardware engineers, the testers, all develop a centre of excellence for smart metering for India, albeit in the UK. So as we've moved along this journey now and gone forward, we now are being able to take that learning and actually do a skills transfer and knowledge transfer here in India, both from direct Sign Canode employees here in India, but also the meter manufacturers, the system integrators, and also we'd like to get involved the telcos as well, such as BT and others, to be able to take what we have. And again, Prime Minister Modi is really looking for make in India. And that's very much that we've done in the last 12 months. We've set up contract equipment manufacturers here in India that make now the hardware, and that's been deployed. So they're not reliant on anything outside of India. It's all self-contained. We have the Centre of Excellence in the UK that supports the people here, whether it's through collaboration with those part of the ecosystem or our direct employees here, to make it and get it installed and get the efficiencies for end-to-end solutions that we offer now in smart metering. And the wider part of that, with the launch of the product that we did in June this year, was to have it for the Internet of Things. So an open standards product that third-party applications can be put on. And in fact, this means for smart cities, and we know that Prime Minister Modi wants 100 smart cities to evolve and develop here in India. We can actually help with that, and we'd like to be part of that, and also share what I call share the wallet. So let's not be greedy, let's have a piece for everyone.
Thank you, John. And I think for those newer to the world of business in the room, that is a great example of how to find a new client live on stage. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that overview, John. I wanted to turn to the question of what are the tech trends we're seeing in the UK and India. And maybe to kick that off, I wanted to ask Chris for just some further insights. He talked in his introductory remarks about data analytics and what they're seeing in developing the business. Tell us a bit more about what you're seeing in that space in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So I briefly spoke about the power of data to transform lives, and that's something I'm really excited about, and Bbox is really excited about using our data. If you had the chance to be at the introductory talk yesterday evening at the High Commissioner's residence, you would have heard someone talk about data. It's not only about data, it's more about intelligence, about the insights that you can get from data. I think that's something that really resonates with us. For example, it's not just about collecting that information, it's about using that data to change behaviors, to drive actions in the business, and to add value to the business in some way. So I spoke briefly there about how we use our information that we're gathering from our systems to understand the energy behaviors of our clients over time. But what is really interesting is how we can then use that insight to upsell further products to that client, to offer them a higher level of service, or to change the behavior of the staff that are interacting with that customer. So these are the sort of things that we're really interested in seeing. To touch briefly on the collaboration point, I think it's really exciting to talk more about that. So Bbox is a relatively small company. We have about 150 staff in R&D based across 3 development sites around the world. And I think it's the shared learnings from those different environments that our research staff bring, both in Africa, in Asia, and in Europe, and bringing those together to collaborate, and particularly when it comes to data analytics. You've got people in different experiences, either next to the customer in our African team, closer to the data insights in London, or in Asia, closer to the software development. And these are the 3 teams working together to bring new experiences. I think that's really powerful for us over the next few years.
So, Chris, if I'm hearing you correctly there, you're saying that actually bringing in a global approach to data analytics means that the analysis is actually much more effective.
Absolutely. You've not got the one sort of one-dimensional view of one particular team. You're sharing those experiences across multiple teams, collaborating in order to get deeper insights into customer behaviors.
Thank you. VC, you have it in the name, engineer.ai, but perhaps you could tell us a bit more about your experience of the AI scene here in India.
Sure thing. I think there is a great shift happening in this country in terms of access to technology and the way users are really enjoying. So right from probably building a dream to making life easy to even saving lives, we are seeing a lot of use cases in terms of how technology, AI, and business intelligence is really changing lives out here. So we had this interesting meeting this morning with one of the state government principal secretaries for IT, and we were discussing about a challenge that the state is facing where there are a lot of farmers who go into the farms and there are a lot of snakes that come in. Because of snake bites, there are a lot of lives lost, and how can we solve this problem? And it's amazing that the room had 3 players from different companies who collaborated. We were talking about probably a drone technology coming in, imaging technology coming in, and an application that resides in the phone of a farmer where he's able to figure out and he gets a warning if there's a snake somewhere close to him. So right from making lives easy to saving lives, technology is really changing lives, and we are seeing that change happening where government is taking a lot of initiatives. We have state governments who are trying to do as much as possible to ensure that people get access to what they want in life, to live a good life. So there is a big shift happening out here.
And just to dig down onto the AI theme specifically, VC, are you seeing a particular strength for India in that market in the future?
So I think we always would have the challenge of finding good talent out here. I think we had this discussion between me and Mohan where it is definitely a problem when you look at specific skill sets. So that's why we approached a model of what we call as Uber for outsourcing. So we don't depend on a particular market in terms of resources to get the talent and quality that we need. So if we need AI resourcing and we feel that maybe US is the best market to hire those resources, we go and find partners there who do work for us in AI. The same thing we look at UK for blockchain technology and BI technology. So we kind of spread out, find which market is the best to find resources for a particular skill set, and that really works for us in a great way.
So I think, you've touched on the really important theme there of skill sets and talent and how you find the best talent. And I know, Sudhir, in the just over 10 years you've been leading BT's operations here, you've grown to about 10,000 people from just 200.
Yeah,
so you've found the right talent. Tell us more about the talent and skill sets you found here.
I think this is really a very strong topic, and if you see India emergence in the economy is basically because of the IT skill sets and the services around, and that's what it globalized the Indian industry. So that's, if we have to stay ahead in this info age or the fourth industrial revolution, which means we need to keep looking at these skill sets. I have seen, if you see the IT industry, how it grew from a BPO, which means you require a business process re-engineering functions, business process operation functions, and then move to re-engineering functions. And then they started saying the KPO functions, which means you need to get deeper into vertical knowledge. Going forward, some kind of development and the operations expertise. So people were managing technologies across the globe, and this is how we grew. When we grew from 200 to 10,000 plus we also have almost a similar number with our partners working for us out of India. That's the kind of, we see it's a skill set hub in this country. Now, as we keep migrating in the value chain, we require different kind of skill sets. As I said, when you get into we have people for network operations, we have people for security and also for cyber security out of India. And that's the kind of advancement you require. But now there is, these changes, I keep saying they were incremental or cosmetic, small changes are happening year over year. But now there are sudden blockchain and AI and data science. It's actually bringing disruption into the skill set requirement. UK brings a very strong education institutions. Their education system is problem-based learning systems. India also has few of the institutions, but somewhere we can collaborate there to create the skill set for the future. Now, what's the skill set for the future? As far as the technologies are concerned, obviously it's moving more towards capabilities towards AI, data science, wearable electronics, autonomous vehicles. Those kind of technologies are taking shape, which means you need to understand those subjects. But are we looking for the typical school or college graduate engineers for that? Or are we changing that model, which is actually getting model that change? My son, who is studying in US, he wanted to drop off. He said, I don't want a degree. He started making money when he was just 10th, 11th standard. He said, why do I need degree? I can learn automatically myself. So if that is the approach happening, which means we need to look at the skill sets which are more around cognitive abilities, creative thinking, judgment. Can you really make a decision making and collaboration? Those kind of skill sets probably would be required. Hence, you may require some kind of functional knowledge, as I said, whether you are in AI or data science or all this, or creating this autonomous vehicles. And I keep saying this, and a lot of people who are there in BT probably would have heard that this particular thing which I keep saying. In Industrial Revolution, before Industrial Revolution, India was the route to silk and spices. I keep saying silk and masala. SILK, please look at these 4 alphabets, twist around, you get a word called scale. So India would be on the route of this new emerging skill and chicken masala because our curries are getting special all over the world in this new info age.
So just briefly, if I may come back to you, Mohan Reddy, because I know you've been involved at NASSCOM in looking at the development of a future skills program that addresses some of the future needs that Sudhir was just talking about.
Thank you, Priya. I think this is going to be the biggest challenge that the information technology industry or the tech industry will have in this nation. Not to throw too much of data at you, but today the IT industry is about $167 billion strong. We employ 4 million software professionals in this industry. And we all recognize about 60% of these engineers who are employed by the IT industry require reskilling and upskilling in the course of next 3 years. So we talked about a number of ways in which this could be done. And one of the things that we are doing at this point of time is created a very intelligent platform called the Future Skills. And what we have identified is 9 different technologies which could be extremely disruptive, starting off with AI, you look at mobility, 3D printing, AR, VR, machine learning, and so on and so forth. And then that would roll down to about 40 different job roles or about 150 different skills that are required. And all these at this point of time, we are not dabbling around with the content or assessment. We are basically an aggregator and making sure we moderate the way in which this can be implemented. And this is primarily a B2B model at this point of time. And we already have about 70,000 users on this particular model. People are learning future technologies using this platform. The interesting thing back onto the collaboration is UKIT has shown interest. We now have an agreement with UKIT to collaborate in terms of making this platform available to the British software professionals, so they could also start using it. We have a meeting coming up on 18th of this month, I believe. But I think the beauty of this particular platform, and I'll share that and stop there, is that it also has artificial engine built into it at the back end. So it is a customized path that is created for individual learning. Again, you're using technology to learn technology back again. That's the beauty of it. And the second one is that we are seeing that irrespective of the number of users, it doesn't blink even an eyelid. It has enormous amount of power that's there. So there could be a number of users who come in and they do not sulk at any point of time to say their response times are lower. So customization and ability to make sure that the student is interested is the one way we thought will make all of these people reskill themselves. And it's a huge opportunity and also a challenge.
So I wanted to come back to one of the key themes for this session, which is really around how larger companies collaborate with and learn from smaller startups. And I know, Ron, at Elsevier, you talked in your introductory remarks about the work that you've done partnering with smaller companies and indeed investing in smaller companies. So I'd love to hear a bit more about your experience.
Sure. So I gave you a little bit of a hint at the beginning. So one of the ways in which we think about how we can understand the world of technology from outside the company is through our venture arm. And the venture arm's a separate group from the rest of the organization. It's tasked with essentially being the in-house venture company. And the idea has been to use that group to help us to understand some of the things that we would not, in our operating units, have the time to go out and look at. And that's why this organization has been able to invest in companies, small stakes in lots and lots of different companies, and bring back to us, as operators, if you like, insights into where the world is going, especially in technology. But that doesn't necessarily bring immediate business benefits. So another thing that we do is keep an eye open to what's happening from an operational standpoint. So at Elsevier, we have a group called Elsevier Labs. And what Elsevier Labs is a group of mostly now data scientists, but essentially technologists, very often coming out of universities in California, in the UK, in Germany, and elsewhere. And the idea is that they bring to us ideas that they think would be relevant to us. So how does image recognition help in the world of clinical diagnosis? What is the opportunity to deploy blockchain in a very esoteric application, the peer review system of academia? Things that we wouldn't, once again, normally think about, but bringing it a little bit closer to home. And then the third way we look at this is identify companies out there, sometimes spin-outs from universities, sometimes people from universities, and sometimes startups in their own right, with capability either in talent or having built a product that we haven't either got the capability or the time to scale up to the extent that they have, and to see whether they can accelerate our strategy by coming inside the company. So the opportunity to us is to bring in talent and to bring in capability. The opportunity we offer to the startup is how to scale up. Very often, startups have had a very good idea, but they lack resources to move very quickly. We can help with that, human resources, money resources. Very often, startups are attracted to us because we have enormous data sets, and especially in the areas of artificial intelligence, having a big data set is really, really useful. We're actually quite fortunate at Elsevier because the worlds we play in medicine and in academic research, are areas which you don't have to spend a lot of time convincing people are ones which have a social good. And so it's quite straightforward for us to attract organizations or people in front of our mission. The experience we have is that the biggest thing we have to be careful of is the culture. The people themselves are not that different. They're very smart, very passionate, very driven. The issue is about the organizations, the processes that inevitably come out of a largish company, and I don't necessarily consider us a huge company, but to a small 10, 50-person organization, even an organization with 1,000 people looks absolutely daunting. So understanding how to manage that culture is an incredibly important dimension. I've been doing this type of thing for about 15 years, and the biggest recommendation to any of you who are trying this stuff out is to spend as much time as you possibly can before the acquisition getting to know the people. That will teach you a lot about whether there's likely to be a cultural fit. And actually, if you get to know the people a little bit, on day one, after the transactions close, you already have a relationship. And that's hugely valuable because it's that critical first few months when people are making their minds up about whether this is a change that they like or a change that they don't like.
So I wanted to give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to ask a question. Whilst I'm searching for a hand, I'll just mention two asks that I would have of you. One, that you introduce yourself, and second, that it actually is a question, not a comment, just to allow us to engage with a broader group. So does anyone in the audience have a question? We've stunned you into silence. So whilst you are considering if you do want to bring a question to the table, why don't I come back to follow on with the theme of investment? Because I do think you rightly noted there, Ron, one of the key elements in actually facilitating that startup large company collaboration. And I would love to see from maybe Mohan Reddy, you have some experience of this, whether you're seeing an increase in what's sometimes called corporate venture capital in the Indian market, as well as the work that Ron's referred to for Elsevier in the UK and globally.
Sure. I think we're certainly seeing a major spurt in corporate venture funding by Indian corporates at this point of time. Just to give you an example, in my own company, which is publicly traded company, so I can share what it is, we're about $700 million of revenue that we have. But, and then probably our bottom line is about $100+ million. But the CEO of the company today is given an unquestioned authority to invest $10 million every year in startups. So it is all his decision. It doesn't come up to the board. $10 million is set apart. So that is a fairly large sum of money for Indian companies. The other thing which is interesting that we have seen also happening is internally within the companies, they're also making a lot of investments in future technologies. These are not, related to one business unit. We keep saying if it is going to be just increasing my revenue from a business, I'm not interested in that. It has to be very disruptive, creating a new service offering to the marketplace. That's when we invest. We call them as new business accelerators. And currently we're running that at about 1.5% of our revenue, which is into a common pool. And then we put that into each one of these projects. We currently run about 18 projects, I believe, this year. And so that these could scale up. So therefore, there is a tremendous amount of change in the mindset of Indian companies in terms of funding new startups, that's to the venture capital fund. Or I keep saying, internally, within even large companies, you start small companies within. Both of them are happening.
So last call for questions. Okay, perfect. Vishal, please. If you can, do we have a microphone? Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Priya. Hi, it's Vishal from Kabila Life Ventures. So we think of ourselves as an India-UK tech bridge. So in keeping with the theme of the discussion and talking about corporate startup collaboration, so what do you think is the role of ecosystem enablers? And I know Rocket Space, for example, has built a phenomenal ecosystem in terms of making that process more seamless, both from the perspective of startups and from the perspective of corporates to make the engagement more meaningful. So what do you think is the role of ecosystem enablers, and how as a corporate do you go about engaging with those ecosystem enablers as opposed to engaging with the startups directly?
Ron, you looked as though you were about to leap in, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. And so the slightly trite answer is, until there's an AI solution to this matchmaking, I think you play an incredibly important role. And I don't know when that solution is going to come. But fundamentally, an organization, a big corporate, is traditionally so focused on running the business that even with the efforts that I described and you had other panelists describing, we just cannot keep up with the sheer amount of creativity, of innovation that's going on. And if we can't keep up, then we will not be successful in the future. So organizations that can create that ability to show us what's out there, and to show what's out there, what we do, are fundamentally important.
Can I add, please? Just to add what Ron said, is that today, if you look at you said ecosystem, so there are a number of incubators that are there, and one that I run is called T-Hub, run on behalf of the Telangana government. And one of the things that really is appealing is that there are a number of corporates which are coming and running corporate accelerator programs. These are not small companies. I can name them. This is Boeing, or it's Facebook, or it is HSBC Bank, and so on and so forth. And what we have seen is that amazing results that come by, because not necessarily the sourcing of the startups are done only through the set of people that are in our co-working space or on the virtual space that we have. We're sourcing the startups from around the world. For example, for the Boeing accelerator program, we had 18 of the UK companies, the British companies, participate in this particular program. And as a result of that, and we got finally, 2 of them got selected, they got funded and so on and so forth. So the ecosystem, I think, slowly is evolving in this country. And I think certainly they are in a position to do the matchmaking. I somehow may not agree that you require an AI tool to do that. But I might say that so long as you can create the right platform, automatically people will make the match. It will be a natural process of going through.
I recall seeing one other hand up for a question. Please, the gentleman at the front. Do we have the microphone? Thank you so much.
My name is Sagar. I run multiple brands in India. But my question is very simple, that in India, we don't have, at some of the sectors, we have the ecosystem. But at various sectors, the ecosystem is still not there. And we have to hire people from Singapore, Korea, Taiwan. So how far the education can bring some resources, even for the high skill which you are giving, Mr. Reddy. We need to have the people in the education level to come up, to learn to those, and then explain it to the other people around. So how far the education system will have pace with these systems? Thank you.
So I'm actually going to ask VC to answer this question because he mentioned in his introductory remarks in the context of digital inclusion being a key ambition that technology can hopefully support. So VC.
Sure. I think, again, interestingly, technology can play a large role here. So the skilling initiative that NASSCOM is doing here, where there's a platform being built and to ensure that there's access to content, there's access to the latest courses that they would want to learn on artificial reality, virtual reality, blockchain. So that is one side of it. The second thing is in terms of governments, I think it should be an initiative both from the central and the state government level to ensure that the access is provided to the smallest of smallest towns and cities so that we have enough resources coming out of even small institutions that are there in tier 2, tier 3 towns for us to kind of cover the gap out there. But I think technology has a large role to play in this in terms of helping students across the country to access the content and the material that is required for doing these courses.
Please, Sudhir.
My experience has been a little bit different. I understand, I did talk about in the beginning, our education system has to have a new curriculum, how to have a workforce of 2025, how to really involve our curriculum, which is much more advanced and handling to those kind of new areas which we talked about. But once they get into the job, I've seen Indian skill set is really adapt to change much faster. I probably am using a cultural experience here. People here are, they are the outcome of the economy of scarcity. So hunger is much higher to learn. So I've seen people really want to adapt much faster, especially this new technology which I'm talking about, AI, data science, blockchain. People are really eager, and those kind of, though we still need to adapt that part of our regular curriculum. But I think I was questioning in the front, why do you need those kind of curriculum? It is available on the platforms, study yourself.
So I feel this conversation could go on in many different directions, but sadly we need to bring it to a close. So what I wanted to do is actually ask our panelists just to bring their crystal balls out slightly in the realm of technology and what will define the future of the technology living bridge between the UK and India. With just one word, what technology will be the definition of the future tech relationship? Chris?
In one word is tough. Data insights, that's how I would describe it.
That's 2, but I'll let you have it. VC?
I would say it's going to be co-creation, where best of the worlds come together to create what is a solution for every challenge that every country faces.
Research.
Currently, after 350 years of shared history, we are partners of equals.
Collaboration.
Artificial intelligence getting into a number of industries.
Fantastic. Please join me in thanking the panel.